Hello, and welcome back to Links Lives Natters podcast, where we bring you real conversations, real stories, and real people making a difference across Lincolnshire and beyond. I'm Kerry, and today I'm sitting in for our lovely host, Shelley. Now, today's episode is one I think so many people are going to connect with, especially if you've ever felt exhausted, unheard, or even overwhelmed by your health, or like you just know something isn't quite right in your body. Joining us today is nutrition practitioner and self-described health detective, Tina Hancocks from Tina Hancocks Nutrition. Tina works with women dealing with autoimmune conditions, fatigue, brain fog, hormone struggles, and blood sugar imbalance, helping them regain their energy, confidence, and that zest for life through personalized nutrition and functional health support. Tina, welcome to the podcast. Tina, anyone meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for having me here today. It's a real pleasure to come and chat to you, Kerry. So I am a nutritional therapist, a functional medicine and nutrigenomics practitioner, which is a bit of a mouthful, really, but it's all about trying to bring people back into balance. So improving health and bringing back that zest for life, as I said.
That does sound really interesting, and I'm going to enjoy talking to you. You describe yourself as a bit of a self-styled health detective. I love that phrase. What does that mean in real life?
So, as I said, that complex of title sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? So in real life, I say it's really about trying to get under the skin of what's going on for people and understand what the root cause of their symptoms might be. So it's a little bit like peeling back the layers of the onion and figuring out which string we need to pull in the right order to actually help support that person from the ground upwards and not just masking the symptoms.
Um, So, I know your own health journey clearly shaped the work that you're doing now. Can you tell us what happened and how it led you into nutrition and natural health?
Sure. So it's a long one, but I will give you the potted version, which was basically I started out my career working in a very fast-paced industry in the city, and I took a break from the incredible stress levels and horrendous work environment and went to a tropical island where I unfortunately managed to get a souvenir, which was actually a nasty gut bug at the time. And then within about 2 or 3 days, I had searing joint pain. And I never connected it. I never connected it with actually what was going on with my gut. Neither did any of my rheumatologists subsequently or anyone else. Anyway, and after that, I took quite a long time to get a diagnosis. And when I eventually did, I remember the rheumatologist shaking my hand, giving me a leaflet and a prescription for high dose anti-inflammatories and saying, you're just going to have to take these for the rest of your life. There is nothing you can do. And you might have to have surgery when you're a bit older. And I think maybe because I was young enough and stubborn enough at the time, this was in my early 20s, I effectively went, I don't believe that. I think there must be something that I can do to support myself, and I'm going to figure this out with whatever little internet there was at the time, because yes, I am that old. And so that's where I started, just changing things gradually in my diet, still working in a very high pressure industry, so it wasn't easy. And noticing what correlated to, worse pain, worse symptoms, worse fatigue, etc. And that's where my kind of love for it. The silver lining of the cloud was born, if you like. And that started my kind of lifelong passion and understanding of how powerful food is.
That's a really powerful story in itself. Who do you mainly support now through your Tina Hancocks Nutrition?
So I focus a lot on women with autoimmune or immune related conditions. So that might be either a newly diagnosed condition or people that may have had decades with a chronic condition. And maybe the medications aren't working quite as well as they used to, and they're looking for an alternative way to support their health alongside. I do also work with some elite athletes, believe it or not. So I've got the full spectrum of, from chronic disease to elite performance,
Right.
because the underlying factors are actually, believe it or not, very much the same.
So I wanted to ask you what kind of things that they are usually struggling with what, when they come to you and say, Tina, can you help me with this?
So, autoimmune diseases, of which there's about 150 different diagnosed now, but they tend to manifest with a lot of fatigue, a lot of joint pain, a lot of brain fog, digestive issues, skin issues, and energy is one of the overriding things people come with. It's just like, I just can't function in my life anymore because I just haven't got that energy anymore that I used to. So, and maybe it's stopping them from playing with their grandkids or their own kids. Maybe because of the unpredictability of their symptoms, they're not able to book the holiday that they want to go on, that they've been thinking about or worrying about going out for dinner.
Um, so let's take someone who feels stuck between medical appointments, test results, and not getting clear answers. So, where do you normally begin?
So, where I begin, I have a 5 stage process, and my first step of that is something called reveal, my first pillar. And that is all about kind of really understanding the journey of what got that person to where they are today. So, it's a very, very detailed health history and understanding kind of the layers of their illness or symptoms. So, whether that's to do with a lot of stress, whether it is the food that they're eating, whether it's exposure to environmental toxins, whatever the specifics might be. So we do a really big deep dive there to try and uncover what might be the drivers for that individual person, and it's different always.
So, do you have can we say like a program that
Yes.
you use?
Yeah. So I have my Get Empowered program, which is specifically designed for autoimmune conditions and chronic conditions, which is a 5 stage program. So that starts with reveal, as I said, and then we move into cleanse, then harmonize, rebuild, and the final step is empower. So it's very structured to help people sort of move through and stop the overwhelm. So
You talk about real food being one of the foundations of health. What do you mean by real food and why is that so important?
Oh, this is a great question. I could talk for hours on this, but my short answer for you is real food is basically food in its natural form, as close to its original sort of root as possible. So, this is going to the allotment and getting your potatoes and carrots and things locally, seasonally, thinking about where the food is coming from and that it hasn't been processed and becomes then devoid of so many of the nutrients that we need. So real food is comes in a paper bag, it comes from your local farmer's market, and it's something that you can make in the kitchen rather than, putting it in a microwave dish and getting it from the supermarket ready made.
Thank you. And a lot of people hear the word nutrition and instantly think restriction, diets, cutting things out, and feeling miserable. How is your approach different?
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think this is what puts people off because they think, oh, it's another diet. But it's really not about restrictions. So, what I do is all about putting more food in. It's actually figuring out how food can be used to nourish you. So, yes, there may be things that we want to take away, but actually, that's the minimum. And it's always about, right, what are the things that are right for you that are going to support your health and actually you need more of to help you feel vibrant and energized.
So, if we think about things like brain fog, fatigue, joint pain. Um, there's lots of things that people quietly struggle with. And how often do you see symptoms linked to blood sugar or even inflammation?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And I think it's something that people don't necessarily join the dots with. So people will eat something that maybe doesn't their body doesn't like, and so that can create low grade inflammation in the body. If we have an immune response to it, and that can manifest its way in joint pain. But people don't connect something that I ate to my wrists and my ankles hurting the next day, or actually not being able to think quite as clearly. And there are clinical anecdotes. There's a program we can talk about later, but some of the evidence from that has shown that when we've balanced blood sugar, actual brain fog has come down across the group by about 40%, which is amazing, isn't it? People
Oh,
don't think.
that's amazing. Yes. So could you suggest some small everyday changes that can make a difference to energy levels without someone having to sort of completely overhaul their life, just overnight sort of thing?
Yes, I get it. Nobody wants to suddenly become a gourmet chef, but I think it is really that. Just even if somebody's not cooking at all and they're relying on a lot of Uber Eats or takeaway meals, then actually just say, right, is there one meal I can do? Let's start cooking once a week, say, and actually start using real ingredients. Doesn't need to be complicated. It can be really simple, and actually the benefits that you will start to reap from that will be enormous. And you might start simply and slowly, and so it doesn't overwhelm you. And actually, you might fall back in love with cooking again. Who knows?
That's brilliant. Um, so you use functional testing and genomics in your work. For people who have never heard of those words, can you explain it in simple terms?
Okay. Yes, they do sound very complicated. And this is really looking at a different range of tests. So things like looking at the trillions of gut bugs that live in your tummy, for example, which have a huge role on our overall health. And so that is one of the tests that I will run. And we look at all the different families. So it's a bit like a rainforest ecosystem. And so we can help determine the good, the bad, and the ugly in there, and if there's any imbalances. We look at hormones and different things, and I also look at genetics a lot. So this is looking at the various sort of spelling mistakes in our DNA, and we all have hundreds of them, but you don't know what they are until you look at them. And so I help people understand that sort of roadmap and their own individual recipe, if you like, from their genetics. And that helps them understand where their individual weak links are and where the vulnerabilities, and then we can target things very specifically.
I've just found this subject absolutely fascinating, Tina. Um, do you find people feel relieved when they finally have more information about what might be going on in their bodies?
100%. Yes, because this is one of the biggest aims to the work when I'm working with people. I think it's helping people understand their conditions because often, as in my own case, you've just been fobbed off with a handshake and a leaflet and no one's ever taken the time to explain to you what is really going on in your body. And actually, when people understand those sort of mechanisms and what's at play, and actually, okay, right, I can do this, this, and this is going to help change these little things and just move the needle very slightly in how they feel. It's empowering. And that's always my goal for people. Yeah.
So, one thing that's really stood out for me is your belief that people have more power over their own health that they may have been led to believe. And what do you mean by that?
This, again, it comes from my own lived experience of being told there is nothing you can do by my consultant, when actually what that wording should probably have been was there is nothing I can do more, but actually you could do a lot more to support yourself. And I think we need to sort of untangle a little bit of that and think actually there is lots we can do to support ourselves. And we have more power over that than we think. And one of the biggest tools is what is on the end of your fork 3 times a day. And it really is the food.
So that's helping people then feel empowered rather than overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always my aim is that I give you the tools to understand what's going on in your body how to structure it. And so you can pull those leaves at any time you need to in the future. And so you are the architect of your own health, essentially.
You're also running a retreat called Nourished by Nature, which honestly sounds beautiful. What can people expect from that?
So, yeah, Nourished by Nature is something I've put together because it's sort of come from that sense that we have distanced ourselves so much from the world around us, at the speed at which we're living today, with AI and the internet and all the pressures that are on people. I really wanted to create something that was allowing people a chance to just step away and reconnect with nature and real food and people in a really relaxed way and just feel good because of that. So it's not a list of to do things. It's not a, right, these are the five different exercises we're doing. It's more about connection, grounding ourselves in nature and a bit of foraging, food prep, learning how to make fermented foods, flower essences, all the lovely things that the natural world offers us.
And you've said that one of the things that you're proudest of is leaving your corporate job and retraining over 3 years. Now, was that a really scary leap?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. Because I had a very successful career, and I think I just got to a point where I just thought, right, it's now or never. I'm going to have to do this if I really want to follow my passion. And it, yeah, took a lot of guts to walk away from that and something I'd built for over 20 years, to doing something completely new, retraining, and spending years doing that and immersing myself in it. But yeah, I'm so pleased I did. I'm so pleased I made that leap.
So you do your retreat, which sounds absolutely wonderful, and you run a program called Sugar Shift. So what is that, and who is it for?
Yeah, so my Sugar Shift is a group program I run, which is effectively open to anyone. And it runs online and it's a 4-week program, which is all about the foundations of setting up the foundation of health, lowering inflammation, blood pressure, improving anxiety and mood through managing blood sugar. sounds sounds complicated, doesn't it? But actually, it can be quite simple.
Yes, so blood sugar. Um, it sounds a bit sciencey, doesn't it? And I think when people say that, they automatically think of people with diabetes and that kind of thing. But it does affect things like mood, cravings, energy, sleep, and brain fog, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I know it's one of those things people don't often connect. And in the past few groups, one of the fun things is I ask people to score various symptoms at the beginning and then at the end. And what we've seen on average is that things like anxiety were reduced by about 50%. Brain fog, as I think I've mentioned before, was down by about 40%, but even joint pain, 60% reduction in joint pain. And that is all to do with just managing something so simple like that. So I take people through it in a stepwise way. We also use a piece of really exciting technology called a CGM. So you can see on your phone, on an app, in real time, what the food that you're eating is actually doing to your blood sugar levels within 15 minutes of eating. And so you can make that connection, and it really, really helps people make changes and see the individual impact.
Oh, Tina. Now somebody somebody like me that loves chocolate. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see for
That
you.
would be really interesting. Um, so what has working with clients taught you about resilience, women's health, and the importance of being listened to?
Oh, so much. I mean, I think women carry so much generally and often just need that time to be heard. And also with autoimmunity in particular, women are affected 8 times out of 10 more than men. It's a huge proportion and often very underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed. So it has shown me actually how resilient people are, but actually how important it is having that time for somebody to actually really take in that space and hold space for somebody who has a chronic illness.
Let's do a little bit of gentle myth busting. And could you give us one myth about nutrition or women's health that you wish would quietly pack its bags and leave forever?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I think it's one of those inflammation for me. People always think, oh gosh, got to take an ibuprofen. This hurts, and actually, inflammation can be really important. Inflammation is how we fix things in the body. The key is that we need to be able to switch it off afterwards and understand how that's working, and that's all again linked into the immune system. So it's not about always squashing down these symptoms. It's about listening to these whispers that our body is often telling us because they're giving us messages all the time.
That's really important there, but you've just nailed it there, haven't you? It's about listening. And are there any wellness trends that make you wince a little bit?
Oh my God, so many. Carnivore diet in particular is a real pet hate of mine, which is an extreme elimination diet at its core, effectively, and where you're taking out entire food groups. And elimination diets can be helpful when used in a therapeutic context, where we're removing whole amounts of the food um, groups for a particular person, but they're not designed for long-term interventions unless somebody has a genuine allergy to something. And so this is where people can go wrong and they start following something online or see something on TikTok and they think, oh, that's the thing I need to do. That's going to make, it's going to be the silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. And actually, everybody is different. So, how one person responds to something is not going to be the same as how somebody else responds. So, doing these kind of crazy fads is something I wish people would just, step away from and go see an expert,
Yes.
please.
And there's been so many, hasn't there? Over the years, there have been many. And what do you wish more people would understand about autoimmune conditions?
I think again, it's that coming back to that point that we have more power than we think, and actually, it's not inevitable. So, for example, if your parents, your mother or your father has one, or your grandfather has one, a lot of people are going to be saying, "Well, it's inevitable. I'm going to get that because they've got that." That's not how it works. Actually, we need three intersecting things for an autoimmune condition to happen. We need a genetic predisposition, so that does happen in a family, but that is just like loading the gun but it doesn't fire the gun. We then need two other things to happen. And those are, one of them is an environmental input, which comes from your diet, environmental toxins, viruses, infections, some medications. And also the third is to do with the health and the structure of various barriers in our body, things like the barrier in our intestines and our skin and our lungs. So it's not an inevitability, and understanding that can really help people go, actually, I've got a huge chance now of not succumbing to that family illness that maybe has run for decades, and how I can support myself for the future is there's lots of options.
That's amazing. It really is amazing. Um, what would be one small thing that any listeners could do this week to support their energy or their well-being?
So I would say start with a good breakfast. So I know there's lots of trends around fasting, and some people feel generally better if they don't have breakfast, but for the majority of people, that is not going to be the case. And that breakfast is probably not coming out of a cardboard packet from the supermarket and that's full of sugar, which most of them are. So it's thinking about having a good balance of protein and some vegetables and some whole grains. So a couple of scrambled eggs, some spinach and cherry tomatoes on a slice of whole grain toast would be a lovely start to the morning. And honestly, by 10:30, you'll feel so different and you won't be reaching for the biscuits and the croissants.
That's unbelievable. Um, so, if listeners are going to take away that one message from today, um, Tina, what would you like it to be? What would you like to promote while you're here and you have the chance to do that?
I think again, it's that thought that actually we do have so much more power and influence over our health and how we feel and how we sharpen our lives. and how energetic we are, the things that we want to do. And so much of that is controlled by your diet and lifestyle. And you have the power to change that. You have the power to change it in small steps, 3 times a day through the meals that you're eating. So that is a great opportunity that anybody can make. And if you're confused, you can come and talk to me or another health professional and practitioner in the same area that I work in. They will be able to give you great guidance, and it will genuinely make a big difference. And it's about showing up for yourself, isn't it? I always say to people, it's a bit like an act of self-love. It's not about being selfish. It's actually about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help other people.
Oh, I love that. I love the way that you say that. That's absolutely brilliant. For me, this really has been fascinating. And if people want to find out more about you and how to get hold of you, then what do they need to do?
Well, you can go to my website, which is tinahancocks.com, or you can find me on Instagram, which is my handle there is at nutrition with Tina. Those are probably the best places to start. And I also I put occasional posts out on LinkedIn as well.
I think this conversation is going to resonate with an awful lot of people who perhaps haven't felt seen or heard in their health journey. And thank you to everybody for listening to Links Lives Matters podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do give it a share, follow the podcast, and leave us a review because it really helps us keep these conversations going. My name is Kerry, and I have been sitting in for our lovely host, Shelley. And we'll see you next time on Links Lives Matters.